Hoi hoi folks, good morning, good afternoon, good evening wherever you are in the world. My name's Sean, aka Uncle Frogface, and welcome to today's video. So obviously it's a little bit different today, out on the street, and that's because today is the 12th of April 2021, and I'm off to the barbers, because now non-essential shops in the UK are open, and if I just show you this, I'm in desperate need of a haircut. So I'm on my way to the barbers, and I'll catch up with you when I'm home. So here we are, a few hours later. You know, had stuff to do and life gets in the way and stuff. But yeah, what do we think? I'll give you a full twirl. It feels so nice to finally have it cut and just feel the air on the back of my neck. It's lovely. But while I was at the barber's, I did have a bit of a strange request for them, which they gave me a few funny looks for. But you know, I'm an artist on YouTube, and I expect that kind of thing. So I asked for my hair. So I have a bag of my own hair, and I'm going to attempt to make, with a few bits that I have here, my own paintbrushes. So I know it's completely insane and mad, but I needed some new paintbrushes for like pinstriping and stuff. So I thought, why not make my own? Use what's at hand. So I'm gonna turn the camera around. What am I doing with my life? I'm gonna turn the camera around and we'll get it all set up. We'll start making some paintbrushes. Okay, so this is what we've got to work with. We have the bag of hair. Look at that, lovely. There's far too much there for what I need, but you know, when they bagged it up at the salon, they literally just put it all in a bag, so that's fine. I've also got for my handles, so I've got a few things here. I've got 3 handles that are actually from old paintbrushes that were broken, so I, you know, repurposed those. This is a chopstick. So that might be useful, and this is just a dowel that I had in my craft cupboard. So I don't know which of these I'm going to use yet, but we'll kind of figure that out as we go along. Also got some embroidery floss, just because it's nice and strong. A pair of scissors, and over here I've got some glue as well, so I've got a feeling we might need that. So I have never made a brush before in my life. I have no idea what I'm doing. I kind of feel like I need to sort out some of this hair first and just get some workable pieces. I'm already regretting this because look at my desk. It's already covered in hair and I've not even got it out the bag. Okay, so I'm going to stalk some hair and I'll get back to you in a minute. So all I've done here is I've got a little spray bottle of water. I actually use that for my watercolours just to moisten them. I'm just kind of trying to decide what kind of brushes that I want and separating some bits out, so it comes out in these little tufts really nicely. So I thought a couple of fine brushes and then maybe something a bit thicker and then something really chunky. Hair is actually quite hard to separate, but I found that kind of going between my fingers like that and separating it out, kind of pulling it apart, make sure all of the hairs line up in the same direction. And I just carried on doing that and ended up with these tufts that I think might be workable. And the water definitely helped here, was a lifesaver. Okay, so now I'm going to take some thread, just some normal nylon thread. I think I'm going to tie these into little bunches. We've got 4 bits here, so you can see from thick to thin. This will be quite a thin little pinstriper, I think. This might be a nice wash brush. Who knows? Have no idea. But yeah, let's start tying things together. So with these I just did a simple overhand knot, double knotted it, and then wrapped some extra string around just to keep it nice and tight and compact, because I know brushes that shed hairs are an annoyance for me. I just went ahead and did the same thing over and over again for each of them. So just a double knot, make sure to leave a tail, tying around and then using that tail to do another double knot and tie it around. So they did slip out a few times. I had to attempt them a couple of times. But eventually, after going through, we just did the same on each one. We ended up with our little packed bristles. So I'm having a look at my handle choices, and I've got 4 tufts here, and I've actually got 4 old paintbrush handles. So I think rather than using these 2, which I could do, I'm just going to use these, and they kind of match the sizes that I've got here. That one's a bit thick for that, and I've got a little tiny one for that there. So now I'm thinking about how I'm going to attach these, and I think rather than kind of messing with the ends of these and trying to get the bristles inside, I think I'm just going to attach them on the side. I think I'm going to attach them there, and I'm going to give them a really good wrap with some of these, and maybe a little bit of glue as well. I've got some hair falling out of this one already. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Okay, let's get to gluing and wrapping. Health and safety warning here. Super glue melts and burns hair and natural fibres and can cause chemical fires. So I did test my hair before this, and my glue was absolutely fine, but do not use super glue on hair. Okay, but with that out of the way, and as I have already tested this, I'm going to go ahead, just a small amount of this glue. So it is a super glue, but it's actually a builder's glue, which I think has a slightly different makeup. It's like a thick gel. And I'm wrapping these much the same way as I did to wrap the bristles together, except I'm using the embroidery floss. So leaving a long tail, wrapping around. I lost some of the bristles here, so I'm just putting them back in and tying them in. So just wrapping around, and then using that tail to tie off the end and keep everything in place. And the black embroidery floss, along with the black handles and my very dark brown hair, worked really nicely. And I just repeated this. So we glue on, we get our embroidery floss, tie a knot, double knot, and wrap around. And it's just a case of rinse and repeat. So we do it again, and wrap. And finally we have all 4 brushes. So now we've got 4 kind of paint brushes. You can actually see, look, the grey hair in this one. Can I pop it? Yeah, there we go. Okay, no grey hairs in our brushes. They're very rough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of damp them and then come in and shape them. I think I want this one to be kind of more of a wash brush. I think maybe this one have more of a flat tip. I don't know. Some of those loose hairs out as well. Then these 2 I think I want to be more kind of long stroke brushes. So I'm going to start doing that. So I didn't think I'd be giving paintbrushes a haircut, let alone making brushes out of my own hair. But you know, when you go to the barbers and they trim your hair, they give it a spritz with some water so it's easier to control. So that's exactly what I did here. I just dipped the bristles, it's really weird calling them bristles, just into a little bit of water, and I'm just going ahead with my scissors and just trimming them into what I think might be a workable shape. And these thin ones didn't really take too much trimming. It's just a case of kind of getting them into a nice point. And this tiny one needed hardly anything. A couple of loose hairs that I plucked out, and then just a little bit of a trim. So we have 4 paintbrushes, I guess. Let's put them to the test. So I'm using my Scrawlrblocks Blackwing pencil here, and I'm just doing a very rough doodle. I wanted something that was nice and flowy, and I'm going to be using watercolours for this. So I love wildlife art, as you'll know if you've seen any of my other videos. So I wanted to do some jellyfish because they're nice and flowing in the water. But as I was laying down the wash with this biggest brush, you can see it's shedding little bits of hair, which was a little bit annoying. I think it definitely needed more glue or a tighter wrap. But I'm using the biggest brush to lay down a wash of water, and then the next one down to come in with some colour into that water wash and let it kind of pool out. It's an effect I really like with watercolour. And I am by no means a watercolour expert. I would call myself, an amateur at best. But it's something I really enjoy. I do like watercolours. They have a very unique way of working. You can see I've got my watercolours down the bottom and at the top I've got my graphite paints, just in case I need to use those as well. So once that wash has completely dried, which I might have helped it along with a hairdryer, and you shouldn't do that with watercolours, I've heard, but I'm coming in with a heavier pigment with, this is not the finest brush, the next one up, and jellyfish have these like lovely undulating kind of tentacly bits underneath, so I wanted to get that in, and I'm just coming in just with some very loose strokes with this brush. It's really nice for kind of long strokes. One thing I'll say about hair, it holds water very well, not so great at holding pigment, so I'm having to dip a lot to get any pigment working on this. Maybe it's my technique, but I do think it might just be the hair not being able to hold on to the pigment. I have heard it said as well that the younger you are, the better hair holds onto pigment. Apparently in some ancient cultures they would use children's hair for brushes because it would hold pigment better. I don't know whether that's true, but it's something that I've heard. Maybe when my nieces and nephews next have a haircut, I'll go around and steal some of their hair. That sounds more sinister than I intended it to. But we're just going through on each of these. So for the reddish one, using more of a red pigment, the blue more of a blue, and the yellow more of a yellow, just building up the saturation of that colour and coming in with these really, really nice strokes. Again, we're just experimenting with colour and with the materials that we have. And once that's dry, I am using the graphite pans. I really like these paints, and this is the finest brush. So these are for the kind of thin tendrils on the rim of a jellyfish. This brush was really nice for getting very kind of straight lines. So I do suffer with a hand tremor sometimes. I was having a bit of a hand tremor today, but doing these was really, really easy. It flowed really nicely. Again, not great at picking up the pigment and having to go back and forth quite a lot, but for the straightness of the lines, I love it. I don't know whether having one made out of my own hair for daily use is necessarily the best thing, but I think I'm definitely going to look at some long bristled brushes. I think they've really helped me. It would be interesting to see what these are like in acrylic paint as well, because obviously we're trying with watercolour here, but acrylic paint obviously has more body to it. I wonder if that would stick to the bristles a little bit more and be able to transfer the paint a little bit. I think we're just coming up to the end here. I'm just saying in the last few details. Okay, so I think that's proof that you can make paintbrushes with your own hair, and at the end of it we've come out with a not terrible piece of artwork. Would I recommend this? I mean, if you're a sane person, probably not. But if you just want to have a bit of fun and you're not too worried about kind of shedding hair all over your watercolours, then absolutely give it a try. I think the surprising thing about this was these two fine brushes. I actually quite like these. I think I would definitely keep these ones for that day when I need to paint a really thin, straight line. I think they're absolutely fine for that. But yeah, we've got something to show for our haircut today. So anyway, as always, I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and until next time, goodbye.